Will Robin ever be the same after the events of episode 16? Let's talk about it. What's going on, guys, and welcome to what I am dubbing Cave Chronicles, a new series on the channel where we dive into each episode of Young Justice in kind of a discussion format. In this series, we will be diving into each episode, some of the things that stand out to me, and kind of creating an open, spoiler-free discussion about the events as they occur. In this episode, we will be talking about the traumatic events of episode 16 and how they kind of beautifully intertwine into the events of episode 17 and some pretty important themes that the show covers, and probably what I would consider to be the most emotionally provocative episode that we have seen yet. I mean, they get really deep in this one. We'll also be talking about how each character, kind of deals with the intricate elements of trauma and exactly what we might see going forward into the future episodes. Now, obviously, I say this as someone that's never seen the future episodes, so if you have seen them and you kind of know what happens, just pretend for a second that you have no idea what's about to go down. Now, before we get into the episode, one thing I want to say is thank you all that have continued to support the channel. I tried something new with episode 16, doing kind of a recap, and many of you seem to enjoy that. So as much as I, hate the way that things have gone down with this series in terms of copyrights and all that, I don't want to give up on this show, on this community, on you guys. You guys have continued to support the videos, and so I want to continue to give you something to look forward to as much as I possibly can. If you want to watch the episodes of Young Justice in their entirety, you already know what to do. My Patreon is linked in my profile page. You can go over to the Patreon. Episodes are free for members. You can become a member, a free version, and you get access to all of the episodes we've done so far. And in fact, episode 17 might be up right now if you want to go check that out. I will also be trying to upload the episodes with some, significant changes to how the episode looks on my second backup YouTube channel, just to kind of test those things out to see if, they get struck as well, but we'll see. So we're testing some things out, and we're trying to find as many ways as possible to still get these videos to you guys. So, follow over in the Patreon, follow on the backup YouTube channel, and that's my spiel. Without further ado, let's talk about episode 17. Now, episode 17, it starts off in exactly the way that I was hoping it would, in the sense that we see our heroes literally just lamenting over the traumatic events of episode 16. If you watched the episode or you saw the episode reaction over on my Patreon, yeah, everyone died. It was pretty traumatic. But then you realize at the end of that episode that it was all a simulation. It was all for training. However, they forgot that it was part of training because McGann, she's just too powerful. She's too strong. And our heroes find themselves, despite the illusion, still having to deal with the mental and emotional weight that was placed on them by what felt like a very real situation. And in many ways, this episode dives deeper into some really important themes. Obviously, one of those themes being trauma and how we as individuals all process and deal with trauma in very different ways. You can go about it and deal with it in the sense of like as a Wally, right? Making fun and making light jokes about the situation because that's just how you process it. Or you can go and be someone like Superboy, or you can be someone that is truly traumatized by it, like Robin. Speaking of Robin, ever since we saw him at the beginning of the series, he's always been one, similarly to Wally, that I think brought a lot of the comedic humor. So you can kind of get a sense of the emotional weight of the situation based on how Robin has kind of processed it. And when you see him talk about Batman, and he specifically says this,
but that thing inside of him, the thing that drives him to sacrifice everything for the sake of his mission, that's not me. I don't want to be the Batman anymore.
It's in that moment that you realize, wow, this is really taking a toll on our heroes. And it kind of leads you to ask questions about how exactly are they potentially going to deal with this stuff, as they go through the rest of season 1. Now, some of the things that I think really stood out to me in this episode was obviously, Superboy and the way that he responds to the situation being completely different than what we thought he would respond. And I wanted to pose this question to you guys because I found it to be so interesting when he talks about, how he actually felt happy being in that situation. And I to me, I look back and I wonder if that was because he genuinely felt like he was actually a part of a team, sacrificing himself for the greater good, or if there was something deeper going on here that maybe hasn't been revealed just yet. Now, quickly touching on each of the characters, obviously when it comes to Wally and how he interpreted trauma, it felt very on brand for me. Wally's always kind of been that lovable, lighthearted character, so him kind of processing this situation in kind of a jokey way could illustrate illustrate some deeper, insecurities that he may have that he's masking, or it could just mean that, Wally just doesn't take a lot of things seriously. That could either be good or bad, depending on how you see things. Artemis's reaction to it was very true to form. It felt like she really has to face a lot of internal demons that she may have been suppressing for the sake of the team. Now that there's this like reality that she has people that she cares about that could potentially be taken away from her, I think it's made Artemis a lot more vulnerable than she originally potentially led on, or at least, has been illustrated to us throughout the time that Artemis has been a part of the team. So I think when it comes to Artemis, she was actually one of the characters I'm most interested in to see how their progression unfolds over the course of the next few episodes, because, I think, as time goes on, I think we really are learning more about this character who, up to this point, I have a lot of questions about, and I'm not exactly sure where this is going to lead and what exactly the show is trying to push us towards as we continue through the series. But man, I will say, if you're asking me, I don't know if Robin's ever going to be the same after this situation. I think the emotional weight and the emotional impact of potentially, being the team leader, a role that he has really wanted ever since the beginning of the show. Like, he felt like he deserved it in the beginning. And I think it showed a lot of growth for him to get to this point in the series, in the season, to feel as though, hey, I had the opportunity, and I basically, even in the simulation, resulted in all of my friends dying, which I think will take a heavy toll on anyone. You finally get it's like getting put into the ball game. You've been warming the bench all season. You finally get put into the ball game. Maybe you're the QB and you throw an interception or your first play to the other team. Yeah, that's gonna haunt you big time. But I really enjoyed how this episode kind of illustrated trauma. It's such a, I think, important aspect to talk about, and I think the way that they intertwined it into this episode was really important. And for a show that has primarily been, I would say, leaning a bit more on the action humor side of things, to have an episode so grounded in these internal struggles that each of the characters is having, I think just made this one of the realest episodes, one of the best written episodes we've seen outside of episode 16. And I love how these episodes kind of work in tandem with each other, and episode 16, immediately leads into episode 17. I think it was so well done. I wish that they had listed it as a part 1, part 2, but I think those who have probably seen the show already kind of already know to watch it as a duo. Now, one thing I wasn't expecting in this episode was seeing Superboy team up with these new allies that he didn't, had no idea about, and seeing the Megazords and stuff come into play was really cool. But I think one of the biggest components of this episode was potentially getting a hint at Apocalypse, which I don't know if anyone else felt this, but to me, it felt like there might be some dark side ties to that as well. I don't know. That was something that really stood out to me. I at first I thought it was just, Superboy going on some random mission with Wolfie and his pet sphere, but it turns out that, upon closer inspection, it seems like this episode, or at least that component of the episode, may actually be leading to something much bigger going down. And we saw the portals again, similarly to what we saw back when the sphere first appeared. And so I'm curious to know how that exactly is going to be playing into the rest of the season. Now, we only have a few episodes left, so I feel like things really are picking up in a way, and I'm excited to see exactly where things lead. My theories are all over the place. I'm speculating wildly as to what we could potentially see in the rest of the season, but I feel like it's going to be exciting. I feel like there's still a mole there, which I still think is Artemis, but I could be wrong. I think there's a lot of questions still left to be answered as we head into the final phase of season 1. But that's my take. Episode 17 was absolutely stellar. Again, a beautiful transition from episode 16, which was very thematically action-packed, and then you get into this episode, which still has a little bit of action, but it's a bit more solemn in its illustration, as we deal with the characters and the downfall of this internal, struggle that they're all having, as they kind of, process the events of what their own life means, the mortality of their own life, and the fact that this is what they signed up for, but in a way, it's not what they signed up for. So it's really interesting to see them kind of battle that, in the reality that they could potentially lose their life, which I think up to this point never really dawned on all of the characters. So I think, again, I truly believe that this is really going to change how Robin and Superboy and Flash really, move forward through the rest of the season, because there's a mortality there that I think they now have to struggle with that they didn't necessarily have before, which I think, when you think of young kids, I think we've all reached a point, or maybe you're at that that point now where you feel like life is invincible. You know, you're invincible, nothing can touch you, right? Which I think a lot of these superheroes, Robin and Superboy, and, you know, except for Aqualad, I think Aqualad's always been pretty grounded, but some of these other characters have definitely illustrated that, like, they don't feel like any harm can come to them, you know, any serious harm. But this is the first episode where a mission didn't go exactly as planned, and it resulted in real lives being lost. And I think that's a heavy toll, and something that they're really going to have to struggle, you know, really going to have to deal with in the next few episodes. But that's my take on the episode, guys. I really liked episode 17. I really did. Awesome episode. If you want to watch the episode for yourself, our first uncut version is available on Patreon right now. It's completely free as a thank you for your support on this series and really giving the channel and me a chance to entertain you. So thank you so much for your support, guys. Really, if you want to check out the Patreon, link is in the bio or on my channel page, and you can check out the backup channel as well. I'm literally working right now to get some of these episodes posted over on the backup channel. So, you know, be on the lookout for those as I try to figure out exactly how we can navigate moving forward. If the videos aren't getting flagged over on the other channel, we may just end up posting season 2 over there. I know it's a little hectic and kind of chaotic to have to go to all these different places. I would love to have posted all the episodes just here on my main channel, because, you know, we really are trying to grow the main channel. But, you know, unfortunately, it is what it is. Given the situation, we're just trying to find a way to continue to push forward together. So let me know what you guys think of this episode without spoilers. Again, if you want to watch the episode, you already know what to do. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next episode.
Oh, that's hot. That's hot.